The night was alive with color. Neon lights painted the streets of Velis Prime, the capital city of the alien Valari Empire. The air shimmered with strange music, the kind that made your chest thrum and your bones feel weightless. Above the crowd, silver towers reached for the clouds, glowing like frozen fire. Inside the Azure Pulse Lounge, the most famous bar in the upper district, laughter and perfume filled the air. Alien nobles reclined on crystal seats while holographic dancers twirled in midair. The smell of sweet smoke, fruit wine, and polished metal blended into one dizzying scent. Among them moved Eli Ward, a quiet human waiter. He walked carefully, carrying trays of glowing drinks that shimmered blue and green. His black uniform was spotless, his brown hair tied back neatly, and his gray eyes avoided attention. Humans were rare here. Most worked as servants, cleaners, or guards for their alien masters. Eli didn't complain. He needed the money. His small apartment in the lower levels of the city was dark and cold, but it was still better than the camps where many humans lived after the war. Tonight was busier than usual. The lounge buzzed with laughter from a private booth in the back. That was where Linara Valari sat, the daughter of one of the high counselors. Her skin shimmered faint silver under the neon light, and her golden eyes gleamed with pride and alcohol. Her long violet hair was braided with gems that glowed faintly, marking her noble birth. She was beautiful. Yes, but her beauty carried arrogance like a crown. Around her sat 4 of her friends, all Valari nobles, laughing loudly as they mocked the human musicians playing softly on stage. "Look at them," one of them said with a smirk. "They don't even understand the rhythm. Such slow creatures," Linara giggled, resting her chin on her hand. "They're good for carrying trays, not for art." Her friends laughed, clinking glasses. Eli walked toward their table with a new tray of drinks. He could feel their eyes on him. He hated that feeling, their gaze like he was some strange animal performing tricks. He focused on his task, careful not to spill a drop. But just as he reached their table, one of the nobles flicked a tail of his cloak toward the tray, playfully but carelessly. The tray shook. A glowing violet drink spilled over the table, and a few drops landed on Linara's sleeve. Her laughter stopped. Everyone around her fell silent. Eli froze, heart hammering. I'm so sorry, my lady," he said softly, reaching for a napkin. Linara's golden eyes narrowed. "You spilled on me?" Her voice carried the sharp tone of someone never told no. "I didn't mean to," Eli replied. "It was, don't speak," she snapped, slamming her glass on the table. The sound echoed across the room. Other guests turned their heads to watch. Linara rose from her seat, standing over him. Her friends whispered, smirking behind their hands. "Do you think a human can touch me?" she hissed. "You filthy servant." Eli kept his head down. He could hear his heart beating in his ears. "Please forgive me. I'll pay for the cleaning." Her hand shot out, grabbing the collar of his shirt. "You think you can buy forgiveness with your dirty credits?" "Linara," one of her friends murmured nervously. "He's just a waiter." Let it go, but she didn't listen. Drunk, angry, and desperate to prove her power, she pulled harder, ripping open his shirt in front of everyone. The sound of tearing fabric cut through the lounge like a knife. Gasps filled the air. Eli froze, chest exposed, breathing shallow. He didn't move, he was used to humiliation. But then something strange happened. Linara's face went pale. Her hand trembled. On his chest, glowing faintly under the neon light, was a mark. A perfect circle of light wrapped around a spiral of golden lines. It pulsed slowly like a heartbeat. It wasn't a tattoo. It wasn't a wound. It was alive, a Valari mark, but not just any mark. It was the royal sigil of House Valerian, the crest of the royal bloodline, one that no human could ever bear, one reserved only for the Valari princess, who had died years ago during the human-Valari war. The entire bar fell silent, every eye turned toward them. Linara's breath caught in her throat. Her golden eyes widened in disbelief as she stared at the mark glowing across Eli's chest. That's impossible," she whispered. Eli looked down at himself, confused. He had seen the strange scar before, but it had never glowed like this. The edges shimmered faint gold, matching the lights around the room as if reacting to her presence. What is this?" he asked quietly. Linara stumbled backward, her chair falling over behind her. Her friend stood up, frightened. "That mark," she said, voice shaking. That's the mark of the crown princess. It can't be. She died years ago. Eli blinked, taking a step forward. I don't understand. Don't touch me, she cried, backing away. The glow from his chest reflected in her wide eyes. The music stopped. Even the holograms flickered to a halt. The only sound left was the hum of neon lights and the distant thunder outside. Guards at the door stared in shock. Patrons whispered, some pulling out devices to record the scene. Lenara stood frozen, her pride shattered. For the first time in her life, she didn't know what to say. The human before her, the one she tried to humiliate, carried the mark of her royal bloodline, something sacred, something untouchable. Eli slowly buttoned what was left of his torn shirt, eyes never leaving hers. What did you see? He asked quietly. Lenara's lips parted, but no sound came. Her hands trembled as she whispered one word, barely audible over the silence. Sister. And the lights flickered, turning the whole lounge into a storm of blue and gold. The bar remained frozen in silence. Lenara's voice had trembled on that single word. Sister. Eli stood still, half-dressed, the torn edges of his shirt hanging loose. The glowing mark on his chest pulsed faintly, golden light reflecting in everyone's wide eyes. No one moved. No one breathed. Then, like a crash of thunder, the room erupted. Guards, someone shouted. It's a fake. Another cried. No human could bear the royal crest. Chairs scraped. Glass shattered. The soft hum of the bar turned into chaos. 2 armored Valari guards pushed through the crowd. Their armor shimmered silver and blue, and their faces were cold as stone. They stopped beside Lenara, who stood frozen, her golden eyes still locked on Eli. Lady Lenara, one of them said, bowing slightly, do you command us to arrest this human for impersonating royal blood? She didn't answer. Her throat felt tight. Eli looked at her, not with fear, but confusion. I didn't do anything. I swear I don't even know what this is. His words sounded honest, desperate. Something in them made her chest ache. The guard raised his weapon, a glowing staff humming with blue light. By decree of the High Council, bearing the sigil of House Valerian without sanction is punishable by— Stop, Lenara said suddenly. The guard hesitated. My lady? Lower your weapon, she ordered, her voice cold but trembling underneath. But this human— I said stop. She snapped, eyes flaring. The guards froze. The crowd whispered. Lenara turned to Eli, stepping closer, her face inches from his chest. The light from the mark flickered against her silver skin. She lifted her hand, hesitated, then touched the edge of the scar. It was warm, alive. It responded to her touch, glowing brighter for a heartbeat. Her heart skipped. That symbol was not painted, not burned. It was fused with his flesh, written into his very life. Only a royal bond mark could glow like that, and only when it sensed blood relation or spirit connection. Her hand trembled. Who are you? Eli shook his head slowly. I don't know. I'm just a waiter. I work here. I don't even remember most of my past, her breath caught. You don't remember? He nodded, only bits. Waking up in a wrecked place years ago. Someone carried me out of fire. A woman with silver skin, like yours. Lenara's pulse quickened. Describe her. She was bleeding. She pressed her hand here, he said, touching his chest. And then I blacked out. When I woke, she was gone. Lenara felt her legs weaken. Her mind screamed that it was impossible, yet her heart whispered that it was true. Her sister, Princess Elira Valari, had vanished during the last days of the human Valari War. The family declared her dead. But no body was ever found. Could it be that her sister's dying touch left this mark? Her breath shook. That was 15 years ago. Yes, Eli said softly. That's how long I've had this scar. The guard stepped forward again. Lady Lenara, this is dangerous. We should bring him to the palace for questioning. Lenara's gaze flicked to the crowd, alien nobles watching like vultures, their eyes full of disgust and curiosity. She knew how the High Council worked. If they took Eli, he would never come back. They'd call him an experiment, or an insult to royal blood. No, she said firmly. He stays here. The guard blinked. My lady, are you defying council law? Lenara's jaw tightened. He's under my protection. Whispers rippled through the crowd. She's protecting a human? Blasphemy. She's drunk. She's lost her mind. But Lenara ignored them. She turned to Eli and whispered, "Meet me behind the lounge at dawn. Don't tell anyone." Then, before anyone could stop her, she stormed out. The doors hissed closed behind her, leaving the room in stunned silence. Hours passed. Rain fell on the city, washing the neon streets in silver reflections. Eli sat alone in the workers' quarters, staring at the faint golden glow beneath his shirt. He didn't know what to think. His mind ran in circles, flashes of war, a dying woman's touch, fire, pain, and now this arrogant alien girl who suddenly looked at him like he was a ghost. He pressed his palm against the mark. "Who were you?" he murmured. Outside, the storm rumbled. When dawn came, he walked to the back alley of the lounge. The street was quiet. The smell of wet metal hung in the air. Lenara was there, wearing a long hooded coat, her silver skin hidden in the shadows. She looked around nervously before speaking. "You came," she said. "You told me to." He replied, "I need answers." Her eyes met his, softer now. "So do I." She handed him a small hologram projector. When she pressed the switch, an image flickered in the air. A beautiful Valari woman with the same golden eyes and gentle smile as Lenara. "This was my sister," she whispered. "Princess Elira. She vanished during the human war. The mark on your chest. It's her royal seal. It binds life and spirit. It should only appear on someone connected by blood." Eli stared at the hologram, heart pounding. The face looked familiar in a way that made his chest hurt. "I saw her," he said quietly. "She saved me." Lenara's voice broke. "Then she's truly gone, and left a part of her inside you." Before Eli could respond, a distant mechanical hum echoed through the alley. A drone light swept across the walls. Valari soldiers were searching the district. Lenara's expression hardened. "They're looking for you." "For us? Us?" Eli asked. She pulled up her hood tighter. "You carry royal essence? They'll call it heresy. I just broke 3 laws protecting you. Why would you do that?" he asked softly. Her golden eyes lingered on his. "Because if what I saw is true, then maybe you're not just a human. Maybe you're the reason she died and the reason she can still live." A blinding beam of light swept down the alley. The soldiers had found them. Lenara grabbed his hand. "Run!" And together the arrogant alien noble and the quiet human waiter disappeared into the storm, hunted by the very empire that once worshipped her bloodline. The rain pounded against the rooftops of the lower district, washing the streets in flickering reflections of neon signs. Eli and Lenara ran through the narrow alleys, their breaths turning into mist under the cold night air. Behind them, the hum of pursuit drones echoed, searching, scanning, hunting. They turned a corner, ducked under a rusted canopy, and stopped to catch their breath. Eli leaned against the wall, chest rising and falling fast. The faint golden glow beneath his torn shirt pulsed with his heartbeat. "They won't stop until they find us," Lenara whispered, pulling down her hood. Her silver hair clung wet against her skin. "You have no idea what that mark means to them." Eli met her eyes, confusion and frustration mixing in his face. "Then tell me, what does it mean?" She looked away, as if afraid to say the words. "It's the sigil of the eternal line, only the royal family bears it. My sister, most of all. If the High Council learns a human carries that mark, they'll call it corruption, heresy, maybe even treason." Eli frowned. "So what? I didn't choose this. I didn't even know it existed." Lenara stared at him. In the dim light, the golden glow under his skin reflected in her eyes. "You're not supposed to have it," she said softly. "That mark is bound to soul essence. It transfers only when the bearer gives their life willingly. My sister, she must have given you part of her spirit before she died." Eli's eyes widened. "Then she's really gone." Lenara nodded slowly. "But somehow she lives inside you." A silence stretched between them, filled only by the rain and distant thunder. They found shelter inside an abandoned warehouse, half collapsed and filled with broken machines from the war. The air smelled of dust and old oil. Lenara used her wristband to project a soft blue light. Eli sat on a crate, his torn shirt clinging to his skin. He looked around at the rusted walls. "I used to see places like this in my dreams," he said quietly. "Sometimes I'd wake up smelling smoke. I thought they were nightmares." "Maybe they were memories," Lenara said. Eli hesitated, then nodded. "I remember some running. People shouting. Then her, a woman with golden eyes like yours. She pressed her hand to my chest and said something I couldn't understand. Linara stepped closer. What did it sound like? He closed his eyes, replaying the echo in his mind. Something like, Valaria entar lithra. Her breath caught. That's ancient Valari. It means, my light will live. Eli looked up at her. She said that before I passed out. Linara's hand trembled. It was her final blessing. That phrase, it binds life to another. You were dying and she gave you part of herself. He looked down at his glowing chest. Then this isn't just a scar. No, Linara whispered. It's her soul. For a moment neither spoke. The rain softened outside. The mark's light dimmed to a faint shimmer. Linara sat across from him, watching him carefully. She saw now what she hadn't before. Not a servant, not a slave, but someone carrying the last spark of her family's honor. Her arrogance melted into quiet guilt. I mocked you, she said suddenly. I tore your shirt to humiliate you. And instead, I found her. Eli smiled faintly. You couldn't have known. But I should have, she said. The moment I saw that light, I felt it. Her essence calls to mine. That's why it reacted. She stood and took a deep breath. If the council finds out, they'll destroy you to protect the secret. The royal mark in a human body is proof that Valari and humans can share life essence, something they've denied for centuries. Eli tilted his head. And you? What will you do? Linara looked out through a crack in the wall at the city's towering lights. I'll find the truth. My sister's death was hidden behind lies. Maybe she tried to stop the war and they silenced her for it. If you carry her light, then you're my only chance to prove it. Eli hesitated. You're risking everything for me. She turned back, her golden eyes steady. No, Eli, I'm risking everything for her and for the truth she died for. A sharp, metallic beep broke the silence. Linara's wristband flashed red. She cursed under her breath. They've tracked us, and how? Eli asked, standing up. My ID beacon, she said, ripping the bracelet off her wrist and smashing it against the floor. Sparks flew. We need to move. She ran toward the back exit, but before she reached the door, a heavy thud shook the building. The side wall exploded inward. A shockwave threw them both to the ground. When the dust cleared, Valari soldiers in dark armor stood at the entrance, their weapons glowing blue. Linara Valari, one of them shouted. You are charged with harboring a human-bearing royal corruption. Surrender immediately. Linara's jaw clenched. She looked at Eli, who was dazed but alive. Her eyes burned with defiance. You'll have to drag us both. She grabbed Eli's arm and pulled him behind a fallen beam. Energy blasts scorched the walls. Eli's mark began to glow again, brighter this time, reacting to danger. Linara gasped as a wave of heat spread through the room, and the fallen machines around them began to hum and flicker to life. Eli's eyes turned gold for an instant. What's happening? He shouted. The mark, Linara yelled. It's protecting us! The energy exploded outward, throwing the soldiers back. The air shimmered with light. When it faded, Eli fell to his knees, gasping for breath. The mark dimmed once more, fading to a faint golden trace. Linara knelt beside him, her hands trembling. You're not just carrying her mark, she whispered. You're carrying her power. Outside, more soldiers arrived. Sirens filled the sky. Linara helped Eli to his feet. We can't stay here. He nodded weakly. Where to? She looked toward the horizon, where the old ruins of the royal fortress glowed faintly in the storm. To the place where she died, Linara said. That's where your answers begin. And together they vanished into the rain as the Empire's searchlight swept the city behind them. The storm had not stopped for 3 days. Lightning cracked across the silver towers of Velis Prime, and thunder rolled like the drums of war. In the lower districts, where light barely touched the streets, Eli and Linara moved like shadows, hunted, tired, and soaked to the bone. Every alley echoed with patrols. The Valari Empire wanted them captured dead or alive. The charge against Linara was treason, and against Eli, corruption of royal blood. They hid in an old transport tunnel beneath the city. Pipes hissed around them, dripping water from the storm above. A small fire flickered inside a rusted barrel, its light dancing on their faces. Linara sat quietly, staring into the flames. Her silver skin looked dull under the soot, her once perfect hair tangled from the rain. Yet there was a strange calm in her golden eyes, the calm of someone who had already lost everything and decided not to turn back. Eli sat across from her, clutching his arm. The wound from the last fight still burned, faint gold veins running under his skin from the mark's strange energy. "You should rest," Linara said softly. He shook his head. "Can't. Every time I close my eyes, I see her. Your sister. I don't remember her face clearly, but I feel her, like she's trying to tell me something." Linara looked at him, her heart tightening. "Maybe she is," he met her gaze. "Why help me, Linara? You could have turned me in. You had everything, status, safety. Why throw it away for someone like me?" For a moment she didn't answer. Then she spoke, voice low and honest. "When I first saw that mark, I wanted to destroy you," she admitted, "to erase the insult of a human wearing a royal seal. But when I saw her light inside you, I realized something. You didn't steal it. You were chosen." She looked away, blinking hard. "I spent my whole life looking down on your kind. My people told me humans were weak, dirty, unworthy of trust. But my sister, she saw something else, and now I see it too." Eli smiled faintly, exhaustion softening his voice. "I'm not special. I'm just trying to survive." "Exactly," Linara said. "That's what makes you different. We Valari were born with power. You humans fight for every breath, and you still choose kindness." Her words hung between them, warm and heavy. The sound of dripping water echoed in the distance. Then Eli spoke again. "What was your sister like?" Linara's lips curved into a sad smile. "Lyra. She was everything I wasn't. Gentle, curious. She believed peace between our worlds was possible. She even visited human camps during the war. My father forbade it, said humans were beneath her. But she didn't care. Her eyes shimmered with tears. And one day she never came back." Eli listened quietly. The mark on his chest glowed faintly, pulsing in time with her trembling voice. "Maybe," he said softly. "She found me instead." Linara reached out, hesitating for a moment before placing her hand over his. The mark brightened, glowing through the fabric of his shirt. The warmth spread between them. For a second, Eli felt her heartbeat, not through touch but through the strange energy linking them both. Linara's breath caught. "The mark reacts to emotion," she whispered. "It's recognizing me." Eli looked down, startled. "Then it's alive?" "In a way," she said. "It's a memory, a living trace of her spirit. The more we connect, the stronger it becomes." Before he could respond, a faint mechanical buzz echoed through the tunnel. Both turned toward the sound, a light sweeping across the walls. "Scanners." Linara hissed, pulling Eli to his feet. They ran down the tunnel, boots splashing through puddles. Behind them, red searchlights grew brighter. They burst through a rusted gate and climbed a maintenance ladder leading to the surface. Rain poured down as they emerged into the edge of the industrial district, endless rows of broken factories and forgotten machines. "We're close," Linara shouted over the thunder. "The old fortress is east of here." They sprinted across the wet metal ground. Drones swooped overhead, scanning the ruins with bright beams. One spotted them and fired a warning shot, blue plasma tearing through a collapsed wall beside them. Eli stumbled but kept running. "We can't outrun them forever." Linara glanced back. "Then we don't run." She stopped near a cluster of abandoned war mechs, relics from the Valari human war. Their shells were corroded, their eyes dark. But when Eli's mark began to glow again, the machines flickered. Linara gasped. "Eli, it's reacting to them." Eli pressed his hand against one of the mechs. The mark blazed bright gold. Ancient circuitry sparked alive. The mech's single eye glowed, humming with energy. Within moments, several of them powered on, towering giants awakening after years of silence. The drones circled, confused. Then the mechs turned their cannons upward, aiming. A blinding volley of plasma fire erupted, shredding the drones from the sky. The noise shook the air. The ground quaked. When the last drone fell, the light from Eli's chest dimmed again. He dropped to his knees, panting. Linara rushed to his side. "Are you all right?" He nodded weakly. "It's like she took control through me. I didn't even think, I just felt her guiding my hands." Linara's eyes softened. "She's protecting you still." They sat in the rain, surrounded by the faint hum of reawakened machines. The world around them felt different now. Less like a hunt, more like destiny unfolding. Eli looked at Linara and smiled faintly. "Guess we just declared war on your empire." She smirked through exhaustion. "Then let's make it worth it." She stood, extending her hand to him. "Come on, We have to reach the fortress before dawn. That's where her last memory lies. And maybe, she paused, her voice softening, maybe that's where you'll learn who you really are. Eli took her hand, rising to his feet. Their fingers stayed locked a moment longer than needed. The storm raged on above, but neither cared. Two fugitives, one human, one alien, walked together through the ruins, bound by light, hunted by an empire, and drawn by the soul of a fallen princess. And far above, in the clouds, something ancient stirred, and watching, waiting for the return of the royal light that refused to die. The storm faded as dawn broke over the wastelands. The silver towers of Velis Prime were now just distant needles on the horizon. What stood before Eli and Lenara was nothing like the glowing empire above. This was the old war zone, the scarred heart of Velari history. Ruined spires jutted from the ground like the bones of dead giants. The wind whistled through hollow halls, carrying voices that sounded almost human, or maybe echoes of those who had died here. Lenara wrapped her cloak tighter. "This is where the war ended," she said quietly. "Where my sister was last seen." Eli stepped forward, his boots crunching over the cracked marble floor. Strange golden veins pulsed faintly under the surface, lighting the path ahead. "She died here?" he asked. Lenara nodded. "The royal fortress of Valerian. When humans stormed the outer ring, she refused to leave. The last message we received from her was one line: the light must not die. After that, everything was silence." Eli touched the walls. "It feels familiar." She looked at him, her eyes narrowing. "You remember this place?" "Not fully," he said, "but something in me knows where to go." They entered the main hall, a vast chamber lined with broken pillars and murals half erased by time. Faded paintings showed Velari nobles in grand armor, their hands raised toward the stars. But on the far wall, one figure stood out, a woman with golden eyes and a gentle smile. Lenara's breath caught. Elira. It was her sister, painted long before the war, the royal sigil glowing on her chest. The same mark now living inside Eli. Eli stepped closer, staring at the mural. The moment his fingers brushed the cracked paint, the mark on his chest began to pulse. The floor trembled. A hidden mechanism inside the wall groaned to life. Dust fell as a secret passage slowly opened behind the painting, revealing a staircase leading underground. Lenara's heart raced. Only someone carrying royal essence could open this. "You really are linked to her." Eli's eyes glowed faint gold in the dim light. "Then let's see what she left behind." The air grew colder as they descended. The corridor below was filled with faint lights, floating motes of golden dust that moved like fireflies. The deeper they went, the more alive the mark on Eli's chest became, humming softly like a heartbeat that wasn't his own. Finally, they reached a wide chamber filled with ancient technology. Crystalline pillars surrounded a circular platform in the center. In the middle stood a glass pod, cracked but still glowing faintly from within. Inside it lay the remains of Princess Elira Velari, her silver hair frozen in stasis, her hands resting over her heart. Lenara fell to her knees. "Sister," her voice broke. "All this time, they said you vanished, but you were buried here." Eli stood beside her, silent. His chest burned, the mark pulsing brighter as if responding to the body within the pod. Suddenly, the air filled with a low hum. The crystals around the chamber lit up one by one, projecting holograms into the air. Elira's image appeared before them, alive, serene, and heartbreakingly kind. "If you are hearing this," her voice said, soft but powerful, "then I am gone. I feared this would happen. The Council will not allow peace. They seek control, not unity. So I gave what I could to one who still believed in mercy. A human." Lenara's eyes widened. "Eli Ward," the hologram continued. "You were dying that night, and yet you still tried to save me. In that moment, I saw what my people could not, that humanity's greatest strength is compassion. So I gave you my light, hoping it would one day return to my sister and remind her that love between species is not weakness." Lenara's tears fell silently. "Lenara," Elira's image said, turning as if she could see her, "you were proud, fierce, but your heart was kind once. Let it be kind again. Protect him, for through him I live." The hologram flickered, then faded into silence. Eli exhaled shakily. She knew." Lenara wiped her tears, her face hardening with resolve. Then we know the truth now. My sister was murdered for trying to end the war, and they buried her story here. Before they could speak further, the ground shook violently. The sound of engines roared above. Eli glanced upward. They've found us. Lenara stood, her expression turning cold. The council must have tracked your energy signature. They'll destroy this place to erase the evidence. Eli looked at the pod, then at her. We can't let that happen, she nodded. Then we fight. Moments later, explosions rocked the upper halls. Valari soldiers poured through the broken ceiling, their armor gleaming under the fortress lights. Eli and Lenara stood back to back as the first wave descended. Plasma bolts lit up the room. Eli raised his hand instinctively, and the golden mark flared like a sunburst. Energy rippled outward. The crystalline pillars exploded into blinding light, forming a protective barrier around them. Lenara turned in awe. You're channeling her power again. I'm not doing it, Eli shouted over the noise. It's her. She's defending us. The soldiers fired relentlessly, but their shots dissolved in midair, turning into harmless sparks. The fortress itself seemed alive, ancient technology awakening in response to Eli's presence. The hologram flickered once more, Elira's voice faint but clear. Protect what is left of us. The light must not die. Eli gritted his teeth, the mark burning bright. I won't let it. With one final surge of energy, a wave of golden light blasted outward, throwing the soldiers back and sealing the entrance in molten stone. Silence returned. Eli collapsed to his knees, breathing heavily. Lenara caught him before he fell completely. His chest still glowed faintly, the mark now resembling a small beating heart. You did it, she whispered. You saved her memory. Eli looked up weakly. No, we did. The fortress walls began to hum softly, not with threat but with peace. Somewhere in the shadows, Elira's hologram shimmered once more, her faint smile lingering before it faded forever. Lenara looked toward the sealed door. The Empire will come again. But next time, we'll be ready. And outside, the golden veins across the ruins began to spread, carrying light through the darkness, as if the princess's soul had awakened once more to defend her people. The fortress trembled again. Outside, the ground split open under the weight of landing ships. Dozens of them, sleek, black, and glowing with blue engines, surrounded the ruins like hungry beasts. Inside, Eli and Lenara stood in the flickering light of the princess's last message, their reflections trembling across the cracked glass of the stasis pod. She warned us, Lenara said quietly. The council would rather burn her memory than admit the truth. Eli looked up. Then we make sure they can't. A low hum echoed through the walls, the sound of the fortress coming alive again. The golden veins that had lain dormant for years began to glow brighter, spreading across the floor and ceiling. Ancient runes pulsed like heartbeats. Lenara placed her hand against a wall and streams of holographic script flared under her palm. The defense systems are reactivating, she said. But they'll need a power source. Eli's chest burned. The mark glowed like molten gold. Use me. Lenara turned sharply. No, that energy is your life force. If the system draws too much, it could kill you. He smiled faintly. Your sister already gave her life to stop the war. Maybe it's time I finish what she started. Lenara's voice shook. Don't say that. You're not her replacement. You're alive, Eli. You're human. The air above them erupted. The ceiling tore open as Valari dropships descended, releasing waves of soldiers in black armor. Their weapons glowed with cruel precision. At their front stood Lord Vayan Solis, head of the High Council. His eyes were cold, his silver armor gleaming with gold trim. Lady Lenara Valari, he called, voice echoing through the chamber. You disgrace your blood. Step aside and we may spare you. Lenara's golden eyes burned. You killed my sister. You lied to the Empire, Vayan smirked. Your sister was a fool. She wanted to mix with humans. She betrayed her kind. Eli stepped forward. No, he said firmly. She believed in something bigger than blood. Vayan's gaze turned sharp. And you are the proof of her failure. He raised his arm. Fire. The soldiers opened fire. Bolts of blue plasma filled the air like rain. Eli's instincts took over. The mark on his chest flared and a golden shield burst outward, covering him and Lenara. Energy rippled across the room, shaking the ancient walls. Eli, Lenara shouted, gripping his arm. You can't hold this forever. I don't need forever, he said through clenched teeth. Just long enough. The barrier flickered with every hit. Eli's knees buckled, blood dripping from his nose. The glow from his chest dimmed slightly with each wave. Lenara pressed her hand against his chest. The mark pulsed again, brighter this time. A spark of golden light spread through her veins. He gasped. What are you doing? Sharing the load, she said, her voice shaking. If the mark connects us through her essence, then we carry it together. Eli stared at her, the proud alien noble who once humiliated him, now bleeding beside him, her eyes fierce with determination. The shield brightened. The golden light expanded, sweeping across the room like a storm. The attacking soldiers were thrown back, their weapons shorting out under the surge. Vian snarled. Enough. He leapt forward, wielding a spear of dark plasma, cutting through the light. He struck Eli in the chest, knocking him to the ground. Lenara screamed. No, Eli coughed, pain searing through his body. The mark flickered weakly, its glow fading. Vian raised his weapon again. The light dies with you, human. But before he could strike, Lenara lunged, drawing a blade from her belt. The weapon, forged from royal steel, caught Vane's plasma spear mid-swing. Sparks filled the air as their weapons clashed. You don't deserve her blood, Lenara shouted. Vane's eyes narrowed. You would betray your own kind for him? Her voice broke, but her words came out strong. I'm not betraying my kind, I'm saving what's left of it. She fought with everything she had. Each movement was fueled by grief, guilt, and something else. Something she didn't dare name until that moment. When Van overpowered her, pushing her to her knees, Eli staggered to his feet again. His chest burned brighter than ever, the mark igniting into pure golden fire. He stepped between them. Stay away from her, Van sneered. You're dying, human. Eli's voice was calm, almost serene. Then I'll die doing something that matters. He placed his hand on the ground and the fortress responded instantly. The golden veins flared to life, connecting every crystal, every pillar, every ancient system. The entire fortress began to glow, as if the soul of Illyra herself had awakened within it. The light rose in a massive wave, enveloping Eli completely. Lenara reached for him. Eli, stop. You'll burn yourself out. He looked back at her with a soft smile. Tell her she was right about humans. The light exploded outward, tearing through the army. The ships above were blinded, engines failing as golden energy rippled through their systems. Vian screamed as the blast consumed him, his armor cracking and vanishing into dust. Then, silence. The fortress stood glowing under the rising dawn. The air shimmered with warmth. Lenara crawled toward Eli, tears blurring her vision. He lay on the floor, breathing faintly, the mark now dim and fading. She held his hand tightly. You idiot, she whispered, crying. You were supposed to survive. His lips curved faintly. Didn't I tell you? I'm just the waiter. She let out a broken laugh, clutching him to her chest. No, you're more than that. You're the light she left for me. The mark flickered once more, then faded completely. Lenara bowed her head against him as the sun rose through the broken roof, golden light pouring over them both. The Empire's ships burned in the distance, their wreckage falling like stars. The war her sister had died trying to end was finally over, but the cost was everything. The war ended in light, and when that light faded, only silence remained. The ancient fortress of Valerian stood still under the golden sunrise, its cracked walls glowing faintly with energy. The smell of smoke and ash filled the air, yet there was peace, the kind that comes only after the storm. Lenara Valari sat beside Eli's body, her silver hands trembling as she brushed the dust from his face. His chest, once burning with the mark of the royal sigil, was now quiet. No glow, no heartbeat, only warmth fading slowly into stillness. The faint hum of the fortress pulsed one last time as if saying goodbye. Then even that sound died. Please, she whispered, tears streaking down her face. Not like this, her voice cracked. The proud noble who once mocked humans was gone. In her place knelt a woman who had learned the meaning of sacrifice. She placed her hand on his chest where the mark had been. You gave everything, for people who called you less. You should have hated us, Eli, but you didn't. Her words echoed softly in the ruined hall. Then a glow flickered under her palm, faint, golden, like a fading ember. Lenara gasped. Eli? But the light didn't revive him. Instead, it spread gently to her skin, forming a faint version of the same mark that had once been his. It pulsed once, twice, then sank into her chest, leaving behind a faint warmth that filled her lungs with breath and her heart with light. A soft voice whispered inside her mind. Not words, but feelings. Peace, hope, live for me. She clutched her chest, eyes wide as tears blurred her vision again. I will. Hours later, the sky above the fortress filled with ships again, but this time they did not attack. Valari soldiers landed carefully, stepping through the debris. When they saw Lord Vane's shattered armor and Lynera standing alone amid the golden glow, they dropped their weapons. She turned toward them, her expression unreadable. The mark on her chest shimmered faintly under her torn cloak. I am the last of the royal line, she said, her voice steady and commanding, and I carry the will of Princess Elira, and the soul of the one she chose. The soldiers looked at one another unsure. You will not hide the truth any longer, Lynera continued. My sister died for peace. A human gave his life to finish what she began. If you call that heresy, then your empire deserves to fall. Her words carried through the broken city, echoing into the dawn. No one dared speak against her. Weeks passed. The empire changed. Under Lynara's rule, the truth of Elira's sacrifice and Eli's final act spread across the stars. The war memorials were rebuilt, no longer divided between alien and human. Their names were carved side by side. The image of Eli Ward, the human who bore the royal mark, became a symbol of unity. To the humans, he was the proof that compassion could end centuries of pain. To the Valari, he was a reminder that nobility didn't come from birth, but from heart. Lynara led both races in rebuilding. Factories that once forged weapons now built homes. Soldiers became teachers and engineers. The cities that once glowed with cold neon began to shimmer with the soft gold of peace. And every night, when the lights dimmed and silence filled the capital, Lynara would return to the ruins of the fortress. She rebuilt a small garden there, one filled with the flowers her sister once loved. At its center stood a monument carved from pale stone. It bore a single engraving, to Eli Ward, the light that did not die. One evening, years later, Lynara stood in that garden again. Her silver hair had grown longer, streaked with faint lines of gold, the same hue as the mark that still glowed faintly on her chest. The night air was quiet, filled only with the sound of soft wind through the flowers. She looked up at the stars, the same stars that once witnessed war, and smiled faintly. Are you still watching? She whispered. Because we kept your promise. For a moment, she thought she saw a figure in the starlight, a faint outline, golden and calm, standing where Eli had once stood. His voice came softly, carried on the breeze. I never left. Lynara closed her eyes. A single tear fell, but her smile stayed. You never could stay quiet, could you? She said gently. The wind moved again, a warm current that brushed past her, lifting her hair, making the flowers sway as if bowing. The faint glow of the fortress walls shimmered one last time before settling into peace. Centuries later, when historians told the story of the Light of Valerian, they spoke not of war, but of the moment a human heart changed an empire. They said a human waiter once bore the mark of a queen, that he faced the might of the stars and gave his life for a woman who once despised him, that in his final breath he gave her the strength to lead both their worlds into peace. And in the heart of every Valari child, a saying was passed down, the strongest light is born from kindness. In that truth, humanity was forever remembered, not as conquerors, not as slaves, but as the race that taught the stars how to love. And under the golden dawn of a new age, Lynara stood once more in the garden, her fingers brushing the flowers as she whispered softly to the wind. Rest well, Eli, your light still lives. The breeze answered with a whisper of warmth, and for the first time in centuries, both the human and Valari worlds watched the same sunrise, together.